So, you're a Cleveland Browns fan. Just how big of a fan are you? Do you deserve a seat at the Dawgs Table? Well, you're here, aren't you?
The best fans, the most patient fans in the league.
This is the Dawgs Table.
Touchdown, Shabalaba Hub!
If you're obnoxious, opinionated, over the top, and you live for the Browns...
45-40, run, William, run! 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown!
Welcome to your new family, the Dawgs Table, an official Dawgs By Nature podcast on the SB Nation and Vox Media Podcast Network. Let's do this. Welcome to the Dawgs Table. Now your hosts, Craig Fountain and Ryan Angelo.
Let's go! Let's go! Go! What's up, everybody? This is Craig Fountain and Ryan Angelo with the Dawgs Table. Thanks for tuning in. It is Dolphins week. Man, that bye week took forever, didn't it, Ryan?
It did, man. I'm still riding that high from the Cincy win, let me tell you.
Oh, man. Stress-free weekend, but, there's nothing like a Browns Sunday or Monday or Thursday.
True.
Game day. Without a game, it doesn't feel right. But we didn't lose, right? We're undefeated in bye weeks.
Absolutely.
But we are looking towards the red-hot Dolphins. And what we are going to do today is we are going to preview the Browns-Dolphins game. We are the Dawgs Table. We're a Cleveland Browns roundtable discussion show. We are brought to you by SB Nation and Vox Media, covering the Cleveland Browns for the Dawgs By Nature official podcast network. Find us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, wherever podcasts are found. You can find us. Just search up the Dawgs By Nature podcast channel. For those of you that this is your first time joining, about halfway through the show, we will turn it over to the audience. You guys can jump in on YouTube or Facebook. You can comment on the show. We'll put a link in the comments. You can join the show and chat with us face to face. But for now, Ryan and I are going to go over the Browns versus Dolphins. Now, we are headed to Miami. The Miami Dolphins are 6-3, and what a week they had last week. Actually, they're red hot. 3 straight wins, 6-3. That's still only good for third in the AFC East, which is incredible, really. But we have some obstacles to overcome, some big ones.
For sure.
They've got home field advantage. We can start with that, right? The visiting sideline is intentionally baking in the Miami sun. So that was something that they prepared for this week. Let's get into, before we get into the injury report, what is the line, Ryan? Who's the favorite and by how much here?
So the line for this week is actually going to be Browns plus 4.5. So the Dolphins are favored by 4.5 this week.
All right. So that's not really much of a surprise. And the Browns have been underdogs lately, which is fine. That's fine. Let's go to the injury reports. And the Browns had some folks that did not participate today. Some of them were because of rest. This is being recorded on a Wednesday if you're listening on the podcast network. Joel Bitonio, Jadeveon Clowney, Amari Cooper, Myles Garrett, they took a rest day. They did not practice. But you also had a couple other players that did not practice because they're dealing with injuries. You had Martin Emerson and Perion Winfrey, both with illnesses. David Njoku with an ankle injury. And Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah with a knee injury. And you had Jack Conklin limited with a foot injury, along with Greg Newsome, oblique, Wyatt Teller, calf, and Denzel Ward, concussion. I'll be interested to see what's going on with Denzel Ward.
Yeah.
It's concerning, right? How much time he's missed with this concussion, and he's been in the protocol. He has a history of concussions. That's definitely something to be worried about, I would think, in my opinion. Would you agree, Ryan?
Yeah, I definitely agree. He's definitely injury prone. the concussions are always tough just because, it's at the forefront of football, in today's society. So, when you've got somebody who's suffering from multiple concussions and is in the protocol for an extended period of time, it's definitely worrisome. I'm hoping that he's going to suit it up this week, but it's going to be tough.
All right. So hopefully we'll see him back and he'll be healthy. I know that it's going to be a topic of conversation. If he comes back and he's healthy, as soon as he gets another concussion, we're going to be starting to speculate on how it's going to affect his career long term. We've already started speculating a little bit on it. So hopefully he is going to be healthy moving forward. And let's look at the Miami Dolphins injury report. They had a couple players. They actually only had one player on rest today, Xavier Howard. They had Teron Armstead, their tackle, along with another tackle. Austin Jackson did not practice. Armstead has a toe issue. Austin Jackson, ankle and calf. Tight end Hunter Long, he has a concussion. They had limited participants. Tanner Connor, tight end. River Craycraft, illness. Raekwon Davis, defensive tackle. Knee and Durham Smythe, hamstring. Jalen Waddle did practice, even though he's nursing a shoulder injury, and so did defensive tackle Christian Wilkins with a hand injury. So not a super lengthy injury report for either team, which is a good thing. It's a good thing. Puts us on a little bit of a even playing ground there. Now,
for sure,
let's kind of look at Miami Dolphins. Again, they're red hot, 3 wins in a row. They started off the season with 3 wins, lost 3 in a row, and now they're on a 3-game win streak. And last week was a super interesting week if you spent the bye week watching the Miami Dolphins game. Justin Fields. All right, so the Miami Dolphins have a top 10 offense and a bottom 10 defense. Sounds familiar, right?
Yes, yes, it does.
It's very familiar. Justin Fields made some history against the Dolphins. He was the first player in NFL history with at least 3 touchdown passes, 150 rushing yards, and a rushing touchdown in a single game. And his 178 rushing yards last week are the most rushing yards by a quarterback in a single regular season game in NFL history.
Wow.
At least since 1940. That's insane, right?
And I had him on my bench in fantasy, so that's great.
I mean,
who could have saw that coming, though, right?
He's had a pretty good fantasy season. He's coming along, but for the most part, you still kind of took it with a grain of salt because, maybe now you don't. But Tyreek Hill is having a monster season.
Yeah.
That's something to note.
Yeah, he's up to, I believe, 76 catches and 1,100 yards. So he's going berserkers.
Yeah. So actually, this weekend, when we play the Dolphins, he can surpass Julio Jones, who had 1,189 receiving yards in 2015 for the most receiving yards by a player in his team's first 10 games of the season in the Super Bowl era, and become the 5th player in NFL history to reach 1,200 receiving yards in his team's first 10 games of a season. And like you said, he has just over 1,100 receiving yards. This Miami Dolphins offense is cooking. All right. Cooking. And both Waddle and Hill, I believe, are top 5 in the league from a wide receiver perspective. Tua is playing ultra efficient, which is kind of scary because, Tua coming into the season, you viewed him more as a liability, and now he's a weapon. They give him enough weapons. It's almost like he can't fail.
Yeah, he's sitting just under 70% completion percentage at 69.9 and a QBR of 115.9 on the season.
Yeah. And last week he had 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 135.7 passer rating. It was his 3rd game with 300 plus passing yards and 3+ touchdowns. That's tied for most in the NFL. And he can add to that if we're not careful this Sunday. So now their run game isn't as strong as their pass game. They have Raheem Mostert's their leading rusher. With that being said, at the trade deadline, and we'll get to the splashier move on defense here in a minute, but they got Jeff Wilson from San Francisco. So they kind of had a split backfield going on, and they got different types of touches. Mostert was the one who punched the ball in on the ground. Jeff Wilson had a receiving TD last week, but if they can get that run game going a little bit, that pass game is going to get just even, it's crazy that it could get more dangerous, but it very well could. They are firing on all cylinders. It's crazy.
Yeah, all three of their running backs can catch the ball out of the backfield, and we've already highlighted Tyreek Hill, but I mean Jalen Waddle's right on the heels. He's got 812 yards on the season, and he's actually got more touchdowns than Hill does, 6 versus 3. So I mean their offense is potent.
Yeah, so they are 10th in the NFL in points per game with just under 24 points per game, 5th in the NFL in yards per game with 380, and they are number 2 in the NFL in yards per play with 6.3, which means they have big play potential, right? And third down conversion, they're around 40%. Same with fourth down conversion. They are 6th in the NFL in red zone scoring touchdown percentage, 68.97%. Although, from what I understand, they haven't actually had that many red zone visits because, well, they have big plays. They make big plays. Number 6 in the NFL, 2.9 touchdowns per game. So this is not an offense to play around with. We're going to have our hands full.
For sure. And they're at home, so that's even worse.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to their rushing offense, they're a little more, they favor the pass more than, say, the Browns do, right? The Browns are about 50-50 split on pass versus run, where Miami is running the ball less than 40% of the time. So at least tendency-wise, we have a little bit of an idea of what they're doing. They do not have, they have a bottom 3, bottom 4 rushing offense ultimately, though. So it's going to be interesting to see 100%. How Joe Woods handles this. And if he's not careful, we could very quickly forget the beatdown we gave Cincinnati and go back to arguing whether or not he should be fired.
100%. So, I mean, it's got the potential to go one of two different ways. You either get blown out, or the Browns are extremely efficient on offense, run the ball really well, and keep the Dolphins offense off the field. But it's going to be a tough one, I think.
Yeah, and when we look at the defense, it's going to be I think this is going to be a little bit of a higher scoring game. I don't know offhand what the over under is. I'm not sure if you had that pulled up with the line, but okay, what is it?
The over under is 48.5.
48.5. So it's not super projected to be super high scoring. But if the Browns don't come to play defense, this could be a shootout. Who has the ball last, assuming the Browns show up like they did against Cincinnati? The Miami that has a bottom 10 defense, they allowed Justin Fields to just completely dominate on that side of the ball. He was able to pass the ball. He was able to run the ball. And they let him make history. And that's been kind of the story of the year.
Right. I mean, and that bodes well for this Browns offense that seems to be clicking recently. So, hopefully that's the same kind of result that we can just get a W at the end of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to be tough on the road in the heat. Now, as far as their defense is concerned, their prized acquisition at the trade deadline was Nick Chubb's cousin, Bradley Chubb, from the Broncos. Mm-hmm. And he could change some things. And this past week was the first week he played for Miami, but he has the potential to kind of change the game on defense. Like, did you watch the Baltimore game?
I did not.
So like watching Roquan Smith roll in there, and they had an element of Roquan Smith. I mean, you add that type of talent to the defense, and it can change the way that entire defense looks and how well they play. And right. I think that was evident when watching Baltimore this past weekend. If you saw the game, Bradley Chubb's a game changer. And he is going to definitely be somebody we're going to have to contend with. They do have Xavier Howard, who is an outstanding cornerback. And, we're just going to have to attack, and we're going to have to score and put ourselves in a position where we're not playing from behind. Because that's bit us this year. Playing from behind has not gone well for us at all.
Right.
So the blueprint is certainly to attack them like we did Cincinnati. Cincinnati had the opportunity and the capability to go after us on offense. That is not a bad offense. That is a great offense. Even with Jamar Chase, I thought that they were going to put up a lot of points and give us a lot of trouble. But we got the momentum, we got the confidence, and we took control of that game on both offense and defense. And that's got to be the blueprint again this week. So anything else you want to note about the Dolphins before we move on to the Cleveland Browns?
No, I think we've covered pretty much everything.
Okay. I gotta say, I love Miami's head coach, who actually spent time in Cleveland. Mike McDaniel is a national treasure, especially when it comes to press conferences. And the guy's funny. He has this ability to get the job done, but also like not take life too seriously. Did you see
Yes, I saw it.
them asking him about what he said to Justin Fields?
Oh, I didn't see that part. I saw what he was saying to Justin, but I didn't see.
Yeah. He was yelling. There was footage of him yelling at Justin Fields on the sideline after Fields scrambled, and he was yelling at Justin Fields to stop it.
Right.
He was yelling, "Stop it!
You stop doing that to me."
And they said, "What were you talking to Justin Fields about it?" And he's like, "Well, everybody's tried to stop him. Nobody's been able to stop him. The guy's playing out of his mind. I figured nobody had asked him to stop, so I figured I'd give that a try. I asked him to stop, and he didn't listen. So, we're gonna have to find a different way to deal with Fields, because he said I was irritated. He didn't listen. I asked him to stop, and he wouldn't listen. All right."
Little sense of humor there from a coach. I like
it. It's one of those things you kind of like it. At the same time, when things aren't going well, then you start getting into the same conversations like we did with Baker Mayfield when he wasn't playing well, and is the personality distraction, and there's a time and a place, and blah blah blah.
Right.
But right now it's going well for him, and we can enjoy it.
Yes.
So, all right, let's go on to the Cleveland Browns. All right, Jacoby Brissett played out of his mind against the Cincinnati Bengals.
He did.
That had to have been the best game of his career. I would say it would have. I mean, it was a near perfect game. 17 of 22, 77% completion percentage, season high 278 yards and a touchdown, career high 133.7 passer rating. If he can achieve 75+% completion percentage through this week, it'll be his third in a row. So he's been playing out of his mind, but there's usually a regression to the mean. And what that means is, when you play with laws of averages and you're on the high end of things, there tends to be regression, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's to be expected. The problem is we know where his ceiling is. We know where his floor is. Where is it going to fall in between? Can he ride this hot streak? It had paid dividends, especially for the Browns receivers. Amari Cooper and Donovan Peoples-Jones both had career highs when it came to receiving yards. Season highs. I'm sorry. Did I say career highs?
You did. Yeah. I was just saying,
season highs. Let me clarify that. Yeah, Donovan Peoples-Jones had 81 receiving yards. If he can reach 70 receiving yards this week, it'll be his fourth in a row over 70 receiving yards. That's big for him. Amari Cooper had 5 key catches against the Bengals, which led the team, and he had a season high 131 yards in his 5th reception TD. I'm struggling with the whole talking thing.
It's all right.
It's important. I mean,
yeah,
that's important. It's
whatever. We're doing this on the fly, so I give you some.
We're doing it on the fly. But Nick Chubb, 101 yards, 2 touchdowns. Derrick Henry, anointed Chubb.
He did.
The best running back in the NFL. And I'm so happy about it because, really, when we've had that argument, it's Tennessee fans or Indianapolis fans or now maybe Giants fans a little bit are like, I'm going to argue with you on that one. We all know what Nick Chubb is. We've known. But he's putting it on display for the entire world to see this season. And it's awesome. It is absolutely
He's
awesome to see
a
him doing that.
machine that just continues to go full steam ahead. It's pretty spectacular.
Yeah, so one of the keys to the game is going to be to give Nick Chubb the ball. And that's what a lot of us have been pounding the table for is run the ball, run the ball,
Yep.
run the ball. Their defense, Miami's defense, I have it right here. They're giving up only 4.6 yards per carry, which is about, 20th in the league. Not too bad. But opponents are rushing the ball 26 times per game against them. So, that opens the door for hopefully 25 to 30 rushes between Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. And rushing yards per game, 117.4 is what they're giving up, which is about they're in the middle of the road as far as the league's concerned. So we have an opportunity there. And I think the key is going to be to, like I said earlier, just duplicate what we did against Cincinnati, stick to the run, keep giving it to them, and then put Jacoby Brissett into a position to succeed. Because what I'm worried about is that with their offense and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Jeff Wilson, if he starts clicking along with Raheem Mostert and Tua playing out of his mind, I'm worried we're going to get behind. And if you've been watching the show for any length of time, you already know how I feel about Jacoby Brissett. I'm not a huge Brissett guy. I've given him all the credit he deserves, I believe. I think I've been completely fair in that. But I still think that he's not equipped to play from behind in more stressful situations. That's when he starts to lose his efficiency. That's when he starts to turn the ball over. He tries to force throws. And Jacoby Brissett, I mean, his completion percentage has been great over the past few weeks, but he's not the most accurate guy. He doesn't throw the prettiest ball. We have receivers where he can kind of get it to, as long as he puts it in a position to where just the receiver can get it and it's catchable, it's clicking, right? It's making sense. But he's not one of those guys. I mean, don't get me wrong, he has a cannon, but he's not usually going to thread the needle, pinpoint accuracy type thing. So we need to put him in a position where guys are either wide open or he can make those decisions without being under too much pressure or distress.
I mean, ideally, you just want him to play through the flow of the game. You don't want him to have to press. When he has to press is when things can get a little bit dicey. But that was a nice thing. And that's what they've done. That's what they did very nicely against the Bengals, is that they didn't have to press. They were aggressive on both sides of the ball, and they just kind of played with the flow of the game. And it was really nice to see, actually.
Yeah. So, Ryan, give me your kind of overview of what the offense needs to do. I mean, I know you probably agree with a lot of what I said, and then maybe give us some idea of how you're feeling about the defense and what they need to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's offensively, I think it's the same recipe for success that we've been talking about for the whole season, right? You need to control the line of scrimmage. They need to run the ball, and I think it's going to be long, sustained drives that are going to be needed to keep this Dolphins offense off the field, right? So you want to limit their time of possession as much as possible. I believe we had quite a bit more time of possession than the Bengals did in this last game. I don't have the stats in front of me, but that's the recipe for success for the Browns right now. If take advantage of the passing game as the game comes to you. But it definitely starts with Nick Chubb. I mean, that's their recipe for success. They have to do it. It's what sets up the play action. It's what sets up the passing game for them. And they should have no problem if they show up to play. They should have no problem running the ball against this team. Defensively, I think, Joe Woods probably called his best defensive game, I would say, is of his tenure as the Browns defensive coordinator. It was just a masterful performance by the defense. They just were extremely efficient. They were aggressive. It was nice to see that they weren't in the prevent defense for 95% of the game. They came out and said, we're going to attack you. We're going to make you beat us. And luckily enough, the Bengals offensive line just decided not to show up for this game. So, I mean, it's the same recipe. I think they need to be aggressive in spurts. I think they need to be very careful about when they are aggressive, because this Dolphins team can put up 40 plus points in a very short period of time. So you want to be very, very careful about how aggressive you are. But at the same time, you can't be afraid to be aggressive. You don't want Tua to sit back there and slice and dice this team up, because he's very capable of doing that. But at the same time, you can't be overly aggressive, because he does have the capability to get out of the pocket and make things happen with his feet. So, it's tough. You can't really predict, because the Browns have been so inconsistent at times on defense that you don't really know who's going to show up and how they're going to show up. So you're just hoping that Joe Woods can have them as prepared as possible. I know that there was one comment that popped up in our comment section that asked, how's our defensive backs going to stop the passing attack? And, I think it's a combination of knowing when to be aggressive and not to be aggressive. And, that's where your defensive line and linebackers getting pressure on the quarterback helps those guys in the defensive backfield in the passing game and coverage, because if we can get through that offensive line and get some pressure on him and keep the run game in check, it gives a little bit more leeway to Woods to use the defensive backs in a little bit more of a loose manner. So, I mean, you're hoping that that's going to happen again, but we got to see which defense shows up. If that defense shows up from last week, then, we have an extremely high chance of beating this team. But I definitely think it comes with, from the line of scrimmage, controlling it on both sides of the ball, and then time of possession, I think is going to be very critical in this game.
Yeah. And, from a defensive perspective, Joe Woods called an outstanding game, like you mentioned. Sione Takitaki came out and he had a career high 13 tackles. He had a sack, a forced fumble, and we had Deion Jones, or that was who we acquired from the Falcons, who
Correct.
was very good before, dealt with some injuries and kind of declined, and we're trying to nurse him back to Pro Bowl form.
Mm-hmm.
But it'll be interesting to see how if he continues to get with the program, get with the defense, gel, and make an impact. So, we want to see Taki keep up his efforts, and we want to see Deion Jones making more of an impact as well. So hopefully we see some growth and some consistency there. And Newsome has been getting a lot better. Newsome was struggling to begin the season.
And to be fair, struggling. I think he's been a little banged up this year too.
Yeah. So, that's something that we definitely want to see is him. I kind of took the stance last year where I was watching Newsome play as a rookie, and I'm like, towards the end of the season, I'm like, this guy might be better than Denzel Ward.
He looked like it at times, yeah.
Yeah. Now, last year, our defense kind of sucked at the beginning of the year, right? We improved as the year went on. Hopefully that's what we're seeing this year too. So, all right. So offensive keys to the game: run the ball, run. Nick Chubb, don't put the game in Jacoby Brissett's hands. It's tempting to say, I've seen Jacoby do it. I trust him. He can put this game on his shoulders. I'm still not going to take that stance. I don't want to see it. Is it impossible? No. Is it likely? I don't know. But so on offense, give Nick Chubb the ball. Defense, it's getting that consistency out of the defensive line and the linebackers. So they get pressure on the quarterback. That's going to be the key to the game. That makes the defensive backfield, their lives much, much easier if they can do that. Anything you want to add to that? Keys to the game wise?
No, contain Tua. That's what it's going to come down to. Keep him in the pocket, put the pressure on him, make him panic a little bit. I think if they can do that, they can definitely keep this game close, and they can definitely win it. It's a winnable game for sure, but it's 100% a losable game as well. So it's it'll be interesting to see how Joe Woods calls this one for sure, because when he's more aggressive in nature, I think the linebackers and the defensive line thrive off of that a little more. When they sit back and wait more often than not, I think that's when they tend to struggle and give up too much. So, hopefully he comes out a little bit more aggressive and just kind of that mindset that he had last week, and see where it goes.
Yeah. And let's talk about predictions. How do you see this game going? I'm going to put you on the spot here. What is your prediction for this game?
Man, I don't know. This is a tough one for me because I have a ton of respect for that Dolphins offense. I mean, it's hard because, like I said earlier, the Browns, you just don't know what defense is going to show up, and that's what makes predicting their games so difficult for me because you predict them to lose and they come and just go balls to the wall crazy, and then you predict them to win and they come out and they lay Easter eggs. So it's tough for me. I'm going to go with actually a 3-point game on this one. I'm going to go. I'm just going to say a 3-point game. I don't know if I can put a number on it. I'm going to say it's probably going to be within the 40-point line, like a 27 to, some 24 type game or something like that. I don't think it's going to be a super high scoring game because I think the Browns are going to be able to run the ball. I think they're going to be able to control the line of scrimmage. And I think that's going to keep the Dolphins at bay a little bit. So I could see this being a game where it's close, fairly throughout the entire game. And then either team kind of either pulling away in the last quarter or hitting a field goal that could be the difference in the game.
Yeah, I'm going to take the over on this game personally. I think that I'm going to take the Dolphins in this game realistically. My heart says Browns, my head says Dolphins. I'm going to take the over. I'm going to go. I think it's going to be a little high scoring. I think it's going to be kind of in that Dolphins 38, Browns 31 type feel.
Okay.
I think it's going to be a fourth quarter game. I don't necessarily think it's going to come down to a 2-minute drive on either side of the ball necessarily, but it's going to come down to the fourth quarter. They're going to make things interesting. It's going to be a long Sunday afternoon. So
yeah, screw it. I'm going with the Browns 3-point victory.
Browns 3-point victory. All right, There you go. All right. If you are watching live, stay tuned for the overtime show. You guys get to join the show if you'd like. We'll put a link in the comments. You guys can come talk to us. We can interact with your comments for the Dawgs By Nature podcast network community. We thank you for joining the show. Join us once a week. We will be recapping games when there's not a bye, previewing the other games, and bringing you the latest news and notes for the Cleveland Browns. Again, stick around for the overtime show if you're watching live. Until next time, go Browns.
Go Browns.
All right. So if you are still here, I'm going to go ahead and put a link in the comments. If you guys want to join the show and talk Browns with us, it'll be on YouTube and Facebook. If you are on Twitter, we apologize, but it does not give us that functionality to do that. Now, if you are commenting on YouTube or Facebook, we can display your comments and we can interact with you, answer your questions, take your feedback, that kind of thing. Randy Todd says if Joe Woods' sorry ass mixes a lot more blitz packages, we should have a chance. Pressure breaks pipes. Yeah, it's the blitzing is a delicate thing. We've had some success. We've also had tremendous failure trying to bring the blitz this year. Skylar, how you doing? Thanks for joining the show. We appreciate you tuning in,
Skylar?
buddy.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a weird one this week because, Tua does have that ability to beat you with his legs. He's a quick little dude. So if, they are overly aggressive, it can bite them. And I think that's where that's where your coordinator comes in. He's got to call a really good game. He's got to know when to hit the gas pedal and when to, back off and hit the brakes a little bit. So, I agree with what Randy said, but and of all people, I've been clamoring for more aggressive defense all year. I've been calling for it, complaining about it. I'm at the games yelling about it. So, I mean, I want it. It's just, this is one of those teams and you got to kind of be careful.
Yeah. So if you're still watching, we published the first half of the show. We're still explaining this because we know that not everybody tunes in every week. So if you missed it, the first half of the show is recorded for audio only format that goes on the Dawgs By Nature podcast network with Fox Media and SB Nation. When they brought us on, they wanted an audio first version of the show. So we still go live. You guys can still comment and we can display those, but we don't really do the interaction thing, but we want to stay true to our roots. So you guys can comment, interact with us, join the show if you'd like. The link's in the comments. We're a little bit more informal. I'll be cracking more beers, probably hitting my vape. This is where we get to hang with the boys. These are garage beers, right? So, all right. So Tua, I mean, is he for real?
Yeah, I think he is, man. I think he is. I think when you surround him with talent, he's something to watch, man. He's just good. He's just a good quarterback. He's an all around good quarterback. You know, is he going to be the top 5 quarterback of the NFL's future? I don't know. If they can keep surrounding him with talent, maybe. But he was on a deadly Alabama team that had some talent around him, and he reminds me a lot of Jalen Hurts. Like they're kind of the same body size. They're kind of the same kind of player. He's a little bit better runner than Hurts is.
Is Tua's not the same size as Hurts, is he?
They got to be close. I mean, at least they look like it. I could be talking out of my ass, but they look like they're close in size.
See, I agree with Skylar here. Skylar says Tua's legit and fits perfectly with McDaniel's offense. Now, I was not. There's a couple guys I was wrong about. Maybe it's this style of quarterback because I was Norman. What's up, buddy? Thanks for joining the show.
Norman, how you doing, man?
I think there's multiple components to this, right? Tua with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill and Gesicki, like how much better can you be set up for success?
Right. Yeah, they're actually very, very close in size.
Are they?
Yeah, Jalen Hurts is 6'1", 223, and Tua is where'd that go? 6'1", 217.
Wow. See, and CM here is kind of making a point like I would have made. Hurts would embarrass Tua in the weight room. I believe that. I thought Hurts would kind of dwarf Tua a little bit.
They're very close in body size.
Both these guys I was wrong about. I came into the season like Tua didn't have, to me, the ceiling that I knew Hurts had a ceiling where he's at, but
right.
Watching Hurts last year, it was like I was watching this guy and I was like, this guy's never going to make it. You even had the national media going, how'd this guy get through high school? How'd this guy get through college? Like that's a college throw. That's a high school throw,
right.
Things like that. Hurts is the MVP front runner. And I don't think that you can really debate that. There's not really somebody who's super close to him.
Yeah.
Tua, we didn't even really see flashes, I guess, like nowhere near what he is. Now he kind of scares me a little bit. Yeah. Whether or not it's sustainable, I don't know. Right. It's hard to tell. It's like comparing Craig's hair to Ryan's hair. Yeah, like Ryan, your hair, my hair would embarrass your hair. What the hell is he?
Hold on, what is he talking about right now? Do you see this? Look at the beauty that comes out of this head.
Oh,
Cedric,
man.
I know that's you, Cedric. You can put your freaking initials on there and think you're slick, but I know it's you, buddy.
Oh, this is somebody you know?
Yeah, it's my buddy Cedric Mims.
Gotcha. All right. Norman says AJ Brown has been great to help Hurts. Absolutely. They've both gotten help from the wide receiver room. So
yeah,
hats off to both of them. Now, I was wrong about both of them. We'll see if I'm wrong about Justin Fields because
right.
I think he's elite on the ground. They're tailoring the Bears offense more to him on the ground, but I still don't know if I believe him is a. You have to play the Hurts Lamar Jackson game with Fields, or he's not going to be successful. You can't ask him to be a drop back guy. I don't think.
I don't know because he has a really good arm, man. He does.
It wasn't working. They were trying to. It wasn't working.
Their offensive line has been absolutely dog crap since he's been there. So it's hard to say when you don't have somebody blocking for you. But I think we're seeing flashes of what Justin Fields can be in the NFL. Whether or not that continues, I think that's going to be situationally based. But I mean, when he was at Ohio State, that kid had a cannon on him. He was a very, very good college quarterback, and I do think he can throw the ball. I just think he needs to be in better situations to be able to do it. So you'll see in the long run, I think, with him. But you're definitely more you're getting the better the product from Hurts and Tua for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of folks, like Norman said, they don't have the wide receivers in Chicago. A lot of folks were giving some of the credit to Chase Claypool,
right?
This past week, I know
totally
give Fields the credit.
Yeah.
The man gets the credit. Justin Fields gets the credit.
Yep.
Yeah. Losing Allen Robinson was big for them. Darnell Mooney didn't quite fill the shoes the way he was supposed to. Cole Kmet can't, he's been so up and down, but man, how did we get on the Bears?
I don't know, but I'm enjoying it. I'm not gonna lie.
So yeah, Brissett's not going to put down 180 yards on the ground though, ever.
What? You didn't see that scramble last game? That dude was juking and jiving and diving, baby. He's got it.
Oh man, he's one of those guys where like he can scramble, but I don't know.
He's
like,
for sure limited with his athleticism.
He's limited. There's certain guys that are athletic, but you're like, man, that's your high speed. Like your speed doesn't match your body or whatever. Like David Njoku, like when he starts running down the sideline, I'm like, oh no, the D tackle is going to catch him 30 yards down the field.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm kidding. Njoku's not that slow.
No, he's not. But Brissett is.
Brissett is.
He can definitely
like watching Big Ben, but he's a big boy, so
he's a stumbling and a fumbling, but he's good for certain things. He'll get you 5 or 6 yards if he needs to on a scramble, and he's a big body too, which is nice because he can kind of take a hit better than some quarterbacks can. But
yeah, but I don't know. I mean, how much regression do you think we're going to see from Jacoby Brissett, if any, this week? It's hard to imagine he doesn't regress a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's. I mean, it's you're talking about NFL quarterbacks, and there's a very select few NFL quarterbacks that put up statistically great numbers from week to week. I mean, it's you're the top of the top 5, the top 3 quarterbacks in the NFL that are really, really, really doing that. God, he ran a sub 540. That's crazy. That just blows my mind too. But I think that it's natural for it to fall off a little bit. That's tough to continue to do. There are teams that get hot from for a couple week stretch where the quarterbacks are going crazy, but it really just depends on which Browns team shows up. And it's like, it feels so weird saying that. It's like I'm sitting on the edge of the fence and teetering on both sides, but it's so true when it comes to this team because you just don't know who's going to show up from week to week. You don't know if the offense is going to be there. You don't know if the defense is going to be there, or vice versa. So if they're going to come together and play as an entire team. I mean, that was the first game, and as long as I can remember, that they actually played 3 facets of the game at an extremely high level. So, I mean, it's so hard to talk about them in the future because you just don't know.
Yeah, Norman, you're absolutely correct. Miami has bottom 10 defense, and we, we'll kind of circle back to this because it was the very beginning of the show. Not everybody was here at the beginning of the show. They have a bottom 10 defense and a top 10 offense. Yep. They're very similar to us. We don't have an outstanding defense. We have a little bit of a better offense statistically. However, I don't think that anybody can deny that they have a far more explosive offense. They're very different offenses. Theirs is through the air. Ours is on the ground. They're only running the ball 37% of the time. I think we had said it was. Yeah. So it's very different. And Anthony here says Chubb needs to get 200 yards for us to win. I don't know if it's going to be 200, but the formula and I keep saying it's the formula, and I'm not the only one. This isn't
Mhm.
like something I'm coming up with and it's like genius, but Chubb gets 20 carries, we win. He gets 25 carries, we win even more. Now, his efficiency suffers a little bit. He's not going to have as good a numbers yards per carry wise,
Right.
but ultimately that's the key to winning. And a lot of folks are like, well, we need to save him. Save him for what? If we don't run him and win now, we have nothing to save him for.
Exactly.
You
And he's already
you,
he's already getting tread saved on the tires because of having Hunt around. You got to take advantage of that while you have it. If Hunt's not there next year, then he's going to go beat up a little bit. So
yeah, I mean, think about it. We can give Chubb 15 carries a game instead of 20. And yeah, we're going to save a little bit of wear and tear on Chubb, but if that's not the winning formula, then he's going to run the ball another 100, 150 times throughout the rest of the season for not a playoff berth.
yeah.
So do you want to put the mileage on him and get to where you want to be? I mean, that's more meaningful wear and tear than the 100 carries after we're out of playoff contention.
Right.
If that did I articulate that well? Like,
Yeah, I
giving
mean,
my point
you
across?
got to live in the moment in the NFL because tomorrow's not guaranteed. I mean, they could say, "Oh, we're going to save him for this season," and then go into training camp next year, and he could blow out both of his knees in training camp in the first week or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's just tomorrow is never guaranteed in the NFL. So I really hate that analogy. Well, let's wait till next year. Aside from maybe seeing how great Deshaun Watson could be in this team, because he's not going to have a full season this year. But I digress.
The dude's built for it too.
Yeah.
He's a freight train.
Yeah.
I mean, we watch him, squatting 600, 700 pounds. He is training for this. And you have guys like Derrick Henry getting 25 plus carries per game. Chubb's getting unprecedented volume, and it's not even going to sniff what kind of carries Henry's going to get, or
right.
The carries Henry has gotten. Henry's been pushing 400 carries over the past few years per year. Chubb, I don't even think Chubb's had 300 in a year. Last we checked a couple weeks ago, he was pacing like 333. And that's not that crazy considering that of all the 2,000 plus yard rushers the NFL has ever had, the fewest amount of carries to produce a 2,000 plus yard rusher in the NFL is 332. So it's, he's pacing, he's not anymore. I think he's pacing like 17 or 1,800 yards, still phenomenal. But, he was pacing 2,000 yards and he was going to do it in the fewest amount of carries.
I'd have to go back and do the research, but I would really like to know the stat of how many games the Browns have lost when Nick Chubb has rushed for over 100 yards.
For over 100 yards?
Yeah.
That's something that we'll have to put on the list for next week.
Yeah, because I think if he can rush for over 100 yards against this Dolphins team, that I think they'll be in good shape because that's going to open up the pass game. I would have to see the stat. Somebody could prove me wrong with the stat, but I would have to think that they probably haven't lost that many games with him going over 100 yards.
Yeah, I would imagine you're right on that. I know that we were like coming into a few weeks ago, we were like 18-6 when Chubb gets 20 plus carries. So it's favorable.
Right.
He's only gotten over 25 carries 3 or 4 times in his career, and we're undefeated when that happens.
Yeah.
These are very bird's eye view analytics,
right,
but it's the game plan, and it signifies not abandoning the run and sticking with the game plan. This season, when Chubb has less than 20 carries, we lose. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the quote unquote film guys on social media, they'll tell you that everybody's crazy and that doesn't matter. And, if Chubb only needed 18 carries for us to beat Cincinnati, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if I'm buying all that because the game could have gone in a different direction towards the end if we didn't control the ball. So,
man, can you people? I don't know if Browns fans honestly realize how special Nick Chubb is. I'm just looking at his stats here as we're chatting, and there it is. Cedric coming in with the clutch info. Nick Chubb has a record of 18-8 with the Browns when rushing for over 100 yards in his career. So, I mean, it's right on par with the 20-plus carries stat.
And he hasn't denied being Cedric.
Yeah, no, it's Cedric. I know it is.
Anthony says, I wonder if Jerome Ford is going to play, and if he does, how are we going to use him?
Right.
There's a guy they're going to keep the wear and tear off of him.
Yeah,
unless the season gets to a point where it's not meaningful anymore.
Right.
That's when you'll see them save Nick Chubb and they'll get Jerome Ford experience, because they're going to have to decide what to do with. Well, Jerome Ford's also been injured. Dearness Johnson hasn't really touched the ball much either. Jerome Ford would likely get the roster spot because they were starting to put him in on special teams. But
yeah,
the Browns have decisions to make with Kareem Hunt and Dearness Johnson after the season is over. So,
right.
Yep, there you go, Norman. Special teams for Ford.
What I was saying though about the Chubb statistic is he is such a special player because he's been with the Browns for 5 seasons now, and he's averaged 1 fumble a season.
Chubb?
Yep. 5 total fumbles. Only 4 of them have been
Oh,
lost.
man. Has he had one this year, or was that last year? One of those fumbles was one of the
he has not had
worst
one this
times.
year.
It must have been last year. It was like the worst timing for the one fumble ever. I can't remember which game it was or what the situation was, but I remember going like, "Oh no, Nick Chubb, you don't do that." And this is when it happens.
Yeah. It was probably last year. He had 2 last year. One of them was lost.
Skylar says, I just hope this defense shows up and they did on Halloween, like they did on Halloween night, because I will feel more confident, but our defense terrifies me.
Oh yeah, 100%.
We don't know what we're going to get. I mean, if we look at what we've had throughout this year, you expect a garbage defense. But with some recency bias, the last game gives us a little bit of hope that they've turned the corner. But if we take if we look at every game we've played this year, then we might as well just expect to be the defense to come out and just suck. Really?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, how many good defensive games have we played? I mean, you could argue like the Pittsburgh game, was decided pretty easily between offense and defense. Other than that, and I don't even know if I felt comfortable in that game, but every other game, I haven't felt comfortable all year.
That's why it's so hard to talk about this team. Everybody's like, "Oh, you it's so fun to talk about the Browns." It's really not, because they're either going to make you look really brilliant or you're going to look really stupid, because you have no idea what's coming in the future. Like it's so inconsistent that it's like you're playing Russian roulette when you're talking about the Browns, because they just can't seem to be consistent at all.
Yeah. All right. Anybody in the comments have anything they want to bring to the table? Rich says Brown needs to bliss the shit out of Tua, send Miles, Clowney, JOK, and the young guns, Wright and Thomas.
Oh yeah, let's put them all in there, Rich. Let's just send everybody.
I'll tell you what though, having Miles and Clowney back together made a huge deal. And I don't even know if we talked about this last week, but Miles came out and admitted like, hey, maybe I came back from that accident a little bit too soon. I wasn't like all there. Maybe I should have taken my time. So, it sounds like he's feeling better now. All but one, and it was second half breakdowns that did us in. It is.
Yeah.
They put offense. They put our offense in situations the offense shouldn't have been in.
Yeah.
That they're not equipped to overcome or can't overcome.
Right.
We have our limitations on offense.
I got a cool story for you. I know we're coming up against it here, but this little photo right here of Rich, that's his son. He actually is, he was my offensive coordinator this year on 4th and 5th grade tackle football. That's his son.
Did you fire him?
No, he was good. He's good. That's his son. He played running back for us this year, and that was the last game of the season. And he had a very Nick Chubb-like run. It was like a 20-yard gain where this kid was legitimately carrying like 5 defenders in this photo. You can only see like 3 of them, but it was probably the best run that we had all year. It was awesome.
Is the season still going on? Like, no, I need to know who you. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh man, I got to figure out who's in charge and see if I can get you fired and
thanks.
And get him appointed to interim head coach.
Yeah. No, he's He should be the head coach, probably.
Chubb fumbled in the game against the Chiefs when we were up 5. Cedric has
That's
all the
right.
answers.
He does.
Either he's really good at Google or he needs to come on the show sometime.
He's a Google machine, but he can come on anytime he wants to.
Move Miles and Clowney around the D line. They've been doing this. Sometimes I'm looking, pre-snap, and I'm like, they've been putting Miles. They've been switching sides, and it's been interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the defense definitely goes better when they can find someone other than Miles to get pressure on the quarterback. If you get a linebacker that's getting pressure on the quarterback or somebody else on the defensive line, that makes it a lot easier. But when you got to rely on one person to give all of your pressure, it's difficult.
All right. The worst thing possible is happening. The Browns are surviving. They're in a position to finish 9-8 or 10-7, and the coaching staff, the upper management, no part of them wants to be, I'm assuming, competitive. We will win 2 out of the next 3. 2 out of the next 3 is going to be a win, but we're already playing with almost no margin for error. And if we don't win 2 out of the next 3, Deshaun Watson's we're going to be living and dying by whether or not he has any rust or, whatever. Michael Scott says, I don't think he will get 100 plus. Are you talking about Chubb? No 100 plus against Miami?
Oh, I would be shocked.
Cedric says he's the Google queen. Anthony says it might come down to a Cade York field goal. Hope he's on his game. Well,
I predicted it, Anthony. 3-point win for the Browns. So we'll see.
And we'll win 4 of the remaining. So here's the thing. Also, take into consideration this past weekend, nothing went our way from an AFC North perspective.
Right.
You have the Miami Dolphins, who are 6-3, and they're 3rd in the AFC East. We are not just us, but in the AFC North, the division winner is likely going to go to the playoffs. There is probably not a wild card spot to go around in the AFC North. And you have, man, it did not go our way at all. Miami has a weak run defense. I agree. Miami is going to run all over y'all.
What?
All right, Michael must be a Dolphins fan, which is fine. He
must be.
We're okay. We're okay.
But get ready for Craig to get you with some facts here, Michael. I'm ready for this one.
I will hold off on the facts, other than saying,
good luck.
Listen, Jeff Wilson's and Raheem Mostert splitting carries isn't as scary as it really doesn't scare me. I'm nervous about Tua to Hill, Tua to Waddle. I'm really not worried about the run game at all.
Yeah.
The
Browns
second
might
half
catch a break here in the next 3 games too, because if Josh Allen's injured and misses some games, we might get lucky.
Man, there is sunshine in Arizona. Norman is always bringing the optimism.
Always.
I don't want to make the playoffs. I don't want to coach Stefanski. I don't want to make the playoffs. Whew, dissect that one. Okay, so I think that he doesn't want
not a Stefanski fan.
Not a fan of Stefanski. We're stuck with Stefanski for at least another year or 2 following the season.
Yeah.
Stuck is a relative term. Some of us will be happy to be stuck with them. Some of us won't. I happen to believe that Stefanski is an elite head coach. I think that there are extenuating circumstances that are affecting what's happening right now, as far as the play calling. Yeah. There are times he frustrates me as much as anybody else, but I understand
his issues are all situationally based. It's never really it's an entire game issue.
Oh, he's saying he is a Stefanski fan. Sorry, that was hard to.
Yeah, I didn't.
We must have dissected that wrong. So, Patrick, I'm curious, why don't you want to make the playoffs? I mean, the only reason why somebody might not want to make the playoffs is to improve their draft position if they don't believe that they can be successful in the playoffs. But what are we doing? Competing for a higher second round pick?
Yeah.
I mean,
actually, the better that we do, the worse the draft pick is for the Texans this year.
Yeah.
So,
and everybody should be rooting for Baker Mayfield right now, because we're about to go back around. All right, the Baker stuff has died down a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and I've been avoiding talking.
Yeah,
I've been avoiding talking about Baker for so long. Patrick is saying, I'm saying the Browns expected the season to be a wash. Maybe. I think it's still alive and well. You got to try.
Yeah.
All right, Norman Sunshine is gone. He doesn't agree. So Baker Mayfield, it is blowing my mind what they're doing in Carolina right now. PJ Walker, like he's really not a long-term prospect, right?
Wasn't he an XFL quarterback last season?
He was an XFL superstar, which is fine. Like the dude came in and actually he played at times. Do you all think
Terry
Hill?
Tariq. Who's Terry Hill?
Tariq. I think you meant Tariq.
I know.
It's throwing me off. Get 200 yards plus. I mean, it's Tyreek Hill, maybe.
Yeah, it's possible.
It's Tyreek Hill. I mean, he's having a historic season.
Yeah.
Listen,
last time the Browns played him with the Chiefs, though, they kept him fairly in check, didn't they? Like he didn't do anything crazy.
Kelsey probably did all the damage, but no, listen, like we have an extremely talented defensive backfield that is underperforming I can't even put it into words. We are underperforming so bad in every single way when it comes to our defensive backfield. It is so bad. It is so bad because talent-wise, we should have one of the best secondaries in the NFL. Between Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome was phenomenal coming into this year. Like he was going to be the next big thing. We have Martin Emerson, who is playing way better. I mean, he's really come a long way. He's had a couple rookie hiccups, but I'm surprised this guy wasn't a second rounder. We got him in the third. Am I the only one that hates the Deshaun Watson move? No. But there's a lot of reasons to like or dislike the Deshaun Watson move. It's not just about we haven't talked about this in a while. We were almost forgetting about it, but there's a number of reasons why you may not like the Deshaun Watson move. It can be a combination of reasons why some people don't like it. For me, it was, I don't think you need to give somebody $230 million guaranteed and sell the farm. I'd rather have the draft capital and the money and be, God, I don't even know if I want to get into this again. Give me the $230 million and all the draft picks back and go get me Kirk Cousins at a quarter of the price and I'd be happy. Stefanski took Case Keenum to the NFC Championship game. Come on. It's fine. It's about, so that's part of it. Now, the other stuff, I have my own opinions on the moral stuff, but separating that from football, it is equal parts. Well, maybe not equal parts, but it's partially that for me. I'm putting that, I'm trying my best to put that aside. For me, it was also the money, the draft picks, the need. Norman says we have a shot to win 2 of the next 3, and the back half of the schedule teams are not what they are expected to be. We have a chance. So you're saying we have a chance.
So you're saying there's a chance.
Draft capital and money is the old formula that hasn't gotten us over.
I gotta agree. I've always said you got to pay to win.
Rich says, how many other times in history has a high-end QB been available in their prime? Fran Tarkenton. Interesting. Cedric says, I can't hate the move until he plays a handful of games with the team. See, that's the other thing I'm holding out for. Like, people get really
my judgment until the end of next season.
People give me a hard time when I refuse to acknowledge that or validate somebody saying he's a top 5 QB. I will give you fringe top 10 on talent alone. But with 2 years of rust, a new offense, I'm not just going to anoint him top 5. And
No, for sure.
I've told some people, like, even when he was in Houston, before all these accusations came out, before all that, I probably still didn't have him in the top 5. Was he having historical type seasons? Sure. Justin Fields is having a Deshaun Watson season.
Hold on a second.
Hold on. We got to print that out and frame it.
Holy shit. Can you screenshot that?
Yes. Hold on. I just screenshotted it. I got it.
Yeah, got him. Brought him to the dark side.
No, but even when he was having this great season or so with Houston, before all this stuff started coming out, I still wasn't a huge long-term Watson fan. There's more than just, there's no doubt he's talented. He's good. But I don't know. All right.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Damn it, I went all day. I went all day without saying that, and here I am. I say it. I was like, don't say we'll see today. Don't say we'll see. Don't say we'll see.
Give me a player on the Brown side who's going to surprise us this weekend.
Donovan Peoples-Jones.
He's coming off of his season high.
I think he has
yardage.
He has the potential to be the focal point of the passing game this week. Because Xavier Howard is probably going to be matched up on Cooper the majority of the game. They'll make the effort to try to get Cooper involved, but I would say he's probably not going to end up with another 100+ yard receiving performance again. So I would expect Donovan to maybe even crack 100 yards this game, but we'll see.
So we've had some suggestions, Cedric.
Actually, a couple of the ones I gave you, I think, were Cedric's, if I'm not mistaken.
Today we called it the overtime show, but we've gotten, I even had some comments come through YouTube with some ideas on the replay. So after this show goes live, the replays automatically, it stays on Facebook and YouTube, and I'll get comments throughout the week sometimes, people watching the replay. And we got some messages and comments with some other name ideas. This week we called it the overtime show. But
Cedric's suggestions were the Dawgs OT or Dawgs Table OT.
All right. I'm kind of liking the... All right, so injury report. I have it right here. It was Njoku. He's got a high ankle sprain, right? Like, it would be surprising if he played. Like, we were surprised right off the rip when they didn't say 3 to 4 weeks. It's been 2, right?
Yes.
2.5.
Yeah.
So I mean there's a possibility.
Yeah, it's a good thing they haven't ruled him out yet.
Martin Emerson illness, Perion Winfrey illness, Jeremiah Owusu Koromoa knee. They did designate Winovich. We forgot to mention that earlier. They did designate Winovich to return. I'm not 100% sure if we are going to expect him to play. Who said he's going to play? Njoku? See, now you're asking questions you know the answer to. You're trying to... Your rays of sunshine have gone, and now you're trapping us. Now you're trapping us. We love you, Norman. Winovich will be a welcome addition if he's healthy from a pass rushing standpoint. He's going to be a free agent after this year, I believe. That was a 1-year deal, I think.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Trade with Mac Wilson. So here's okay. So Njoku probably loves playing in Miami, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
All right. So it was Njoku. Norman's coming in with facts. All right. So if Njoku plays, that's great. That's outstanding.
Yeah.
All right. Let me hit you with something. So
all right.
I did an article for Dawgs By Nature where I was looking at whose contracts are expiring after this year, like who's headed towards free agency.
I think I read that one.
Jakeem Grant. All right. Let me pull this up real quick. We're in the informal part of our show. We're having garage beer, so bear with
Are you going to ask
here.
me if he's coming back next year?
He's 31 going on 32. We signed him to a deal, and I think it's technically a 3-year deal, but there's an out after this year. Let's just go with that. I'm like 99% sure that's the case. We signed him to a 3-year deal with an out after this year. He's 31 going on 32, and he had an Achilles injury.
I would say he's probably not going to be back next year.
I would tend to agree with you. What do you guys think in the comments? Do you think if that's the case, we're going to bring back?
If he was younger, but the fact that he's, an older guy he's primarily a returner, it's kind of tough to
package that with the fact that they have an out on his contract, and it's not like there's a bunch of dead money.
Right.
All right. Cedric is telling us to get off the air because it's time for the Cavs to play.
Are they playing tonight?
Was it a West Coast game?
I don't know. Might be. They have been in the West Coast. Rich says that the end of our show should be called Last Call.
Ooh, I kind of like Last Call. Man, we're getting some good ideas. I'm glad we asked the audience on this one. Now we're going to have some trouble picking. So coming over to Dawgs By Nature and stuff, we were going through like all this rebranding, we have our new audio intro. We're working on the video intro because we do both the video and the audio. There's going to be some sort of transition between the first part of the show and the second part of the show. So once we kind of get a name and stuff and the segments and stuff, we have to stick with it for consistency's sake. So
we want to get it right the first time, guys.
Absolutely. So these are all great suggestions. We appreciate it.
And yes, the Cavs are they just tipped off in Sacramento. They're playing the Kings.
Oh, all right.
Go Cavs. Go Cavs.
All right. Well, that is it for tonight's show. Thanks for tuning in. You can find us on Twitter at Dawgs Table, on Facebook at Dawgs Table, on YouTube at The Dawgs Table. We are part of the Dawgs By Nature podcast network, presented by SB Nation on Vox Media. And normally we go live Tuesdays at 9. We had to postpone the show this week, so our apologies for that. Glad you could join us tonight. And any parting words, Ryan?
No, for those of you that are new to the show, I didn't recognize today. Welcome. We love you. We appreciate you. For those of you guys that are here every week, we love you. We appreciate you. Until next week, man. Go Browns.
Go Browns.